We wanted to do this documentary so people wouldn't have to always stare and take pictures, because we don't like when they take pictures, so they just knew who we are.
Can you believe it? After 34 years of sharing the same body, Abby and Brittany Hensel were officially separated on May 18, 2024. A moment described as a medical miracle of the century. The surgery lasted for 72 hours, holding the entire world in suspense as the two women, once seen as a symbol of unity, faced an unprecedented turning point. After 18 months of complete silence, they have reappeared, recounting the painful survival journey behind the closed doors of the operating room. Let's see what truly happened during those 72 defining hours. On May 15, 2024, an internal source from the Mayo Clinic revealed that a top-secret operation was underway. Over the course of 3 days and 3 nights, 68 doctors from 12 countries were mobilized for an unprecedented mission to separate two people who had shared one body for 34 years. Leading the team was Dr. Benjamin Carson Jr., known as the Hand of God. Famous for performing highly complex brain surgeries, he was considered the only person experienced enough to command this medical operation. The entire team worked under the highest level of confidentiality. The hospital was completely locked down. All images and sounds were strictly prohibited from being recorded. Every participant signed a confidentiality agreement valid for 100 years. Although reporters and citizens surrounded the hospital, no one was allowed near the special surgical unit. The operation began at 6 a.m. The first stage lasted over 14 hours, focusing on separating the blood vessels in the chest and pelvic regions. Robotic microsurgery with a precision of 0.02 millimeters was used to minimize blood loss. A single miscalculation could have destroyed every effort instantly. By the 20th hour, the surgeons moved on to separate the spinal nerve system. This was the most critical section, determining the survival of both. The Neuralink Assist artificial intelligence system was activated to simulate every neural reflex, ensuring that neither suffered severe neurological damage. The atmosphere in the operating room grew unbearably tense. Each group of doctors was allowed to work a maximum of 8 hours. Before rotation, many refused to leave their stations for nearly half a day. Every movement was executed like a military operation of absolute precision. At the 29th hour, a sudden crisis struck. Abby's heart stopped. Alarms blared through the room. Doctors rushed to resuscitate her, while Brittany, half-conscious, cried out her sister's name. Those 4 minutes were described as the most silent moments in surgical history. When Abby's heartbeat returned, the room erupted. Some doctors wept. Others dropped to their knees in prayer. Dr. Carson Jr. simply said, "We're not finished." No one paused. They continued immediately. On the second day, the team began reconstructing the missing organs. Brittany received an artificial spleen printed in 3D using biotechnological materials tested for the first time during live surgery. Meanwhile, neurological specialists used simulated signals to train both brains to control their newly independent bodies. Each signal was transmitted within milliseconds with perfect accuracy. The doctors monitored continuously through brain-sensing screens and thermal cameras. Every minor reaction was documented to ensure both brains operated independently without reflex confusion. The 54th hour marked a milestone. Abby began responding independently to stimuli, while Brittany maintained stable breathing. The entire team realized this was the exact moment when two lives became separate entities. Inside the room, no one spoke. Only the steady beeping of the heart monitors confirmed the birth of a new era. On the third day, the surgeons proceeded with the final stage, dividing the pelvis and reconstructing the legs. Special synthetic blood was infused to prevent anaphylactic shock. Robotic grafting systems worked non-stop, fusing muscle fibers with biological lasers. Every process was directed by AI to guarantee absolute precision. When the clock reached the 72nd hour, both vital signs stabilized. The sound of rhythmic beeping filled the room. Dr. Carson removed his gloves and said hoarsely, "It's done." For a moment, everyone stood in silence before the room burst into applause. Tears, smiles, and relief swept through the air. The two bodies were transferred into separate recovery rooms. Under the cold white light, two nearly identical faces lay motionless, breathing faintly. A doctor noted in the internal log, "They live, and they are now two different people." The entire operation cost $68 million funded by a private anonymous foundation. Rumors suggested that a major technology corporation had financed it as the first experimental use of AI in regenerative medicine. The hospital issued no official comment. The 72-hour operation had ended, but what came after was the true test. Behind the recovery room doors awaited 18 long months filled with tears and struggle. A time when they had to relearn how to live, how to walk, and how to exist as independent beings. 18 months of tears. The first month was the most difficult period. Neither of them could move on their own. Abby had to breathe through a ventilator while Brittany could only move her fingers. Doctors recorded that their heart rates increased sharply each time they heard the other cry. They remained connected emotionally even though their bodies had been separated. The physiotherapy team began an intensive rehabilitation program. Every day they practiced breathing muscle contraction and learning how to lift their heads off the pillow. Even the smallest movements exhausted them. Their new bodies were unfamiliar, and their minds had not accepted the separation. Brittany often cried at night, calling Abby's name in her sleep. She told doctors she felt as if half of her body was missing. Meanwhile, Abby fell into deep depression, refusing to eat and repeatedly demanding to remove her support devices. Both had to be monitored by psychologists around the clock to prevent self-harming behavior. The specialists recreated their former living environment through familiar sounds, laughter, music they once shared. The goal was to stabilize their minds. The hospital also placed mirrors opposite their beds so that when they looked up, they saw the other's face, but in truth, it was their own reflection. After 6 weeks, they were moved to the rehabilitation ward. It was their first meeting since the surgery. That moment was described as silent tears. Abby trembled as she reached out to touch Brittany, as if confirming that both were still alive. In the following days, the physical training began. Each morning they wore walking support devices, practicing to stand and keep balance. Every step brought pain. Their bodies reacted violently as hundreds of newly regenerated nerves adapted. Abby often fell, while Brittany bit her lip to keep from crying out. As time passed, they gradually gained control of their bodies. The exercises shifted to harder levels, lifting themselves off the bed, walking to the door. Abby managed her first 5 steps without support, while Brittany began using a stationary bike. Both recorded their progress with personal cameras to track their daily improvement. Abby continued to suffer from the after-effects of the 4-minute cardiac arrest. Her left hand trembled slightly, and her balance was weaker. Brittany needed a hip brace to prevent joint misalignment. Each training session ended with them lightly touching hands, a silent gesture of encouragement. By the 6th month, they were transferred to an advanced therapy center. Every day they trained for 14 hours, divided into multiple sessions. Instructors made them relearn everything: walking, sitting, holding a spoon, even sleeping. After decades of lying beside each other, sleeping alone became a haunting fear. Many nights, Abby asked to go to Brittany's room just to hold her hand for a few minutes before returning. The doctors eventually allowed them to use a video system, linking their rooms so they could see each other 24 hours a day. It helped reduce anxiety and allowed them to sleep more peacefully. By the end of 2024, they were finally able to go outside. Every step was recorded by a documentary team granted limited access by the hospital. The image of the two women walking slowly through the courtyard, still wearing patient gowns, quietly spread across the internet and became a symbol of the will to live. January 1, 2025 was seen as a historic milestone. They walked independently for the first time without assistance. The doctors and nurses present applauded. Brittany burst into tears, while Abby whispered softly, "We did it." That sentence later became the opening line of a film segment shared worldwide. Afterward, they left the hospital and moved to a private rehabilitation facility funded by a charitable trust. There, they began learning how to live truly independently. Abby learned to drive while Brittany learned to cook. Each had a private room and separate schedules, but shared a common training area. Brittany wrote in her journal, "I have to learn to listen to my body again, like a newborn child." Abby wrote that it took her a long time to get used to hearing only one voice inside her head. Even in freedom, they carried invisible psychological scars. The media continued to follow them closely, but both remained completely silent. Every statement had to go through lawyers and supervising doctors. During the 18 months, they appeared only once in an internal hospital video. Their faces thin, but their eyes full of determination. The story of their new lives after separation begins here. Family secrets. After 18 months of recovery, Abby and Brittany officially left Mayo Clinic. They appeared before the cameras with faint smiles, but their eyes revealed the exhaustion of countless days of struggle. They spoke briefly, "We want to start over as two real individuals." Abby returned to Minnesota, where her husband Josh Bowling had remained, steadfastly waiting. Their reunion was captured in a private video. Josh held his wife tightly, while Brittany stood nearby, watching silently. From that moment, everything within the family began to change in ways no one could have predicted. Before the surgery took place, both had shared a life with Josh, who was considered the shared husband since they possessed the same reproductive system. After the separation, legal matters became complicated. Experts spent months determining Abby's marital status under state law. Eventually, the authorities recognized Abby as the only person with legal standing in the marriage. Brittany was declared a newly single woman having her own completely separate identity for the first time on official documents. This decision opened a completely different reality, forcing the entire family to adapt anew. Abby and Josh moved into a small house in St. Paul. Just 3 months later, joyful news spread throughout the community Abby was pregnant. The baby named Faith was born in March 2025 healthy and completely normal. The event was described by the media as the second miracle following the surgery. Brittany appeared in the first photos taken after her niece's birth. She stood at a distance smiling faintly, her eyes carrying a trace of sadness. The media began questioning her personal life. While Abby was busy with motherhood, Brittany chose silence, withdrew from the public eye, and began her own journey. In May 2025, she moved to California to work for a biomedical technology research center. There, Brittany met Ryan, a young NASA engineer who later became the most significant companion in her new life. Ryan was described as calm, quiet, and patient. In one interview, he said, "I don't see her past. I only see the person standing before me." Their relationship grew slowly without noise, but captured the world's attention. For the first time in her life, Brittany went shopping alone. She chose a black dress, while Abby had always preferred red. That small gesture became a symbol of newfound independence. "We were never allowed to choose differently," she said, in a short recording, her voice trembling with emotion. The Hensel family initially struggled to accept the changes. Their parents admitted they still instinctively called both daughters' names together, as they did when the two shared one body. Their mother said, "I feel like I've lost one child, even though both are still here." That conflicting emotion lasted for months. Morgan, their youngest sister, reacted the most strongly. She could not accept Brittany's decision to move away and accused Abby of stealing their old life. The sisters argued publicly on social media several times, stirring public debate. The family eventually sought help from psychological experts to mend their relationship. Under media pressure, Abby and Brittany decided to sign an exclusive contract with Netflix to produce a documentary recounting their separation journey. The agreement, valued at $28 million USD, included memoir rights and permission to create a multi-episode series. Their goal was to control how the public perceived them. Filming began in July 2025. Abby appeared as a new mother, while Brittany shared her story of rediscovering herself. They did not avoid internal conflicts, emotional wounds, or the cold realization that they no longer shared one life. In interviews, Brittany said, "We love each other, but now we need to learn to live like two normal people." The quote quickly became the headline of numerous international articles. The public was both touched and confused by a truth almost too surreal to believe. Their lives gradually separated completely. Abby became busy with her child and teaching, while Brittany and Ryan traveled between Los Angeles and Houston to pursue a new project. They stayed in frequent contact, though each meeting felt cautious, like two old friends bound by shared memories. Images of the two sisters together at a charity event in September 2025 marked their first reunion after months apart. When the cameras turned toward them, they held hands, smiling in silence. The moment was described by the media as the healing handshake. The press examined every detail from their daily routines to how they dressed, even questioning whether they still sensed their old psychological connection. Regardless of the noise, both remained silent, confirming only that they still spoke every night through video calls, a ritual they could not abandon. And from that point on, the greatest secret of their lives was about to be revealed. Unexpected revelation. When the world thought Abby and Brittany's story had ended, a new revelation turned everything upside down. In November 2025, during a medical checkup in California, doctors discovered that Brittany was more than 9 weeks pregnant. The news spread worldwide within hours, becoming a global sensation. Experts confirmed this was the first case in history where a former conjoined twin conceived independently after separation. Brittany's body had endured severe circulatory damage, but tests showed the baby was completely healthy. The medical community called it a miracle beyond statistics. Brittany declined interviews, sending only a message through her representative: "I am grateful that life has given me the chance to become a mother." Ryan, her boyfriend, stayed by her side at every checkup. Photos of them leaving the hospital hand in hand flooded social media. Public opinion divided instantly. Many admired her courage and resilience, while others questioned the medical risks and safety of her pregnancy. Brittany stayed silent, unwavering in her decision. From Minnesota, Abby followed closely and posted, "I am proud of my sister." Those 12 words moved millions as the image of two women, once one body, now two mothers, spread worldwide. Netflix quickly announced an expanded documentary adding Brittany's pregnancy journey. Film crews returned to California, capturing her hospital visits and therapy sessions. The release was planned for 2026. At the same time, Abby revealed her plan for a full cosmetic reconstruction in Seoul. "I want to look in the mirror and see myself, not someone else," she said in an interview. Her goal was to create her own identity entirely distinct from Brittany. The media called it the second rebirth. Korean surgeons stated the operation would last over 10 hours, using advanced artificial skin and microstructural reconstruction. Abby prepared quietly, sharing the details with only a few relatives. All photos were kept confidential. The sisters' stories resembled a living film, one creating new life, the other rebuilding her own. Their contrasting paths embodied the same pursuit of freedom and captivated the world's attention. They later founded the New Dawn Foundation, starting with $100 million from film book and sponsorship earnings. Its mission was to fund surgery research and education for conjoined twins worldwide. The foundation's statement read, "Every life deserves the chance to live its own story." Major outlets published their signing ceremony, photos, serene faces, determined eyes. In February 2026, the foundation launched in New York. Abby appeared with her new face, while Brittany, 8 months pregnant, sat nearby. Amid applause, they said, "We lived 34 years as one. Now it's time to live for ourselves." That moment became a symbol of unity and strength. The image of the two, one strong, one gentle, was hailed as unforgettable. By late 2025, the media tracked their every move. Doctors confirmed Brittany's health and the baby's growth. She was expected to give birth in early 2026 in Los Angeles, a milestone in modern medicine. The world awaits that day. Abby promised to be by her sister's side, saying, "We may be two bodies, but we are still one heart." Their story transcends biology. From sharing one body to leading two separate lives, they turned pain into purpose and loss into renewal. Their journey redefines freedom, family, and courage. If you believe that determination can change destiny, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video to spread this inspiring story to everyone.